Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Hello, everybody. Happy Hump Day. Happy Wednesday. Happy early April. Happy spring. This is Julie. I am your host at Nothing But Julie podcast. And I hope that you have had a really great half of your week so far and an enjoyable April so far. For some of you living in the cooler parts of the world, I know that it's warmed up here and there. I remember living in New York and it being beautiful in April and rain, and the tulips bloomed and the daffodils bloomed, and then it snowed. So I guess be on the lookout for that, but it would probably be few and far between now that we are in April. And let's just keep our fingers crossed. Thank you so much for joining me today. I would like to discuss a topic with you that I feel I am an expert at. I have been married, well, let's see. What was it? I've been married, it'll be 28 years in August. Oh my God, 28 years in August. And I feel like I'm an expert on marriage, what makes it work. I don't think that you need to be married for a certain period of time to be an expert. But I certainly think you need to be married long enough to go through the ups and the downs and the horizontals and the verticals and all the different pathways and byways and things that have affected you and your significant other in order to know what really makes a marriage work and how to maintain that marriage. And I certainly am one of those people. My husband and I, like I mentioned, have been married for 28 years. And we went through probably more than what most married couples go through in the first 5 years of their marriage prior to being married. While we were engaged, we went through a lot that pertained to mostly his side of the family. And lots of destructive behavior on their part, and how it impacted both me and my husband and how we got through it. And I felt as though if we were able to really get through that short period prior to getting married, then we could pretty much go through anything. And let me tell you, there have been quite a lot of ups and downs, fights, lots of emotion, having our son and what I believe versus what he believes, and, little tiffs here and there. For the most part, we get along very, very well. We love each other dearly, and we have, I think, an exemplary relationship, but it is work. And I think that most people, no, let me restate that. I don't want to say that. I think that there are quite a few people that were maybe never meant for marriage, or just didn't want to work at it or fight for it when the time came, when, the going got rough. Many of them, they just split. And then there are those who really did try and really did fight, but maybe after years of being married, might have realized that they really are not meant for each other. What might have been something that worked for a couple when they were younger it might not work for that same couple years later. The things that they had in common when they first met or got married are no longer commonalities. People grow, people change, people diversify. And sometimes when somebody changes, the other person might not. And there could be this imbalance. So what do you do when, you're hitting some waves? Or how can you still maintain what you first fell in love with each other for? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not easy. But if you truly love that other person and you don't want to live without them, and there are definitely some things that are in the way that are making you unhappy, then I do feel it's worth it to work on it. So what are the things that we can do? I mean, every marriage needs a tune-up here and there. And so these are the things that I think really do help to maintain marriage. The number one thing for me is, and even though I'm going to say it, and even though you might know it, maybe sometimes you need to hear it to realize the strength in words. You are not an individual entity anymore. You are part of a shared entity. You are now a part of someone else's life, and your decisions are just not based on you or reflect your thoughts or the things that you want to do. Those thoughts and those decisions now have to be based on what your significant other might feel about, and it means having to discuss those things with that person. Certainly there are individualities when it comes to being married. After being married for 28 years, I have got to tell you that there have been times where things of mine have been shared or taken from me. Simple things like, in my toothpaste in my bathroom. But I go to brush my teeth at night. I go to reach for my toothpaste. Gone. Who took it? My husband. Maybe my son. But sometimes my husband. And so I would say to him, you can't just put that back where you found it. And his answer is, you can't just take it back. Now, that I find to be a really annoying answer. You don't just take something that is someone else's and then expect them to go searching for it. Okay? It's diplomatic to take it, put it back. How about not take it at all and have your own toothpaste? But it's those small little things that I have found that add up and add up constantly. It's never really been anything huge with my husband and I that would upset me. It was always small little things that just added up. The toothpaste, not emptying the garbage in our bathroom, leaving something out for days upon days upon days, and not even thinking about putting it back. Small things that he would maybe say, what's the big deal? Just put it away. What's the big deal? Just take your toothpaste. What's the big deal? Empty the garbage can. See, the big deal is all of those what's the big deals are added up. And now you've got 10 things in the course of a few days that I've now had to do that you just decided to leave alone, some of which are your responsibility. So you see, I now had to spend time emptying the garbage, finding my toothpaste, taking your clothes off the bar stool in the family room, cleaning up your mess where you've been working for the last year so I can have some semblance of normalcy. But all that stuff, just because it didn't bother him, didn't mean that he should not clean it up. So I've learned to do one of a few things. Either A, accept it and just stop complaining about it, even though I don't really like to use that word complaint because it's not a complaint. It's a fact that you're making a mess. Or have a real true sit down with the man and discuss why it seems to be impossible for him to do such simple tasks, and then become defensive when I tell him that I don't appreciate him leaving his stuff around. So I decided to have a discussion with him and to have him understand that these things do add up and that they are bothersome, and all of the other things that I do in and outside of the house. I am not the house cleaner. I do not have a title of when he and I got married, that it was not in my vows that I will clean up after him. If he was not married and he left all of this stuff around, it would be guaranteed to be put away. He would have to empty the garbage in the bathroom because eventually stuff would just start falling all over the place. If he didn't have his own toothpaste, he would have to be forced to go out and buy more toothpaste. So everything has become almost a matter of convenience. And sometimes you need to find the proper verbiage when you're having a sit down to discuss why you believe it needs to be fixed. So, I am a firm believer in having a well thought out discussion. It has to be at the proper time, the proper place. But that is one of the main things about maintaining your marriage. That falls under the category of maintenance. Another thing that I think is really important to do, if you can, is to go away. Sometimes when you get stuck in the same rigmarole of life, raising your children, working, taking care of the house, the dogs, each other, you fall into this category of this is just your life, when you sometimes forget that it's still the two of you. And the two of you, knock on wood, will continue on after your children are raised, if you have any. And so it's important that you try to find the time to even go out on date night and find each other again, and not talk about the children or the house or work. Just talk about each other, the pretty leaves on the trees. Go somewhere where it's a beautiful view, where you could both relax and all of a sudden unwind and just stay away from all of the stuff that you're used to focusing on, and get off the phones. There is nothing that important for you to be on your phone for. If you're away and your children are with a babysitter, okay, you've got your phone right there. If there's an emergency, your phone will ring or it will text. I think it's really important, if you can afford it, to have some kind of like a retreat, maybe a weekend retreat. To me, that can bring you back to the two of you and who you are. So you're more refreshed in your marriage, and you've reestablished what you are together for. We all have a tendency of kind of getting stuck inside that ball. It's almost like what do you call that? Like a snowball or a Christmas, not a Christmas ball, like I can't think of the name of it. But, you could shake it up in a globe. You could shake it up and there's like, snow falling or whatever. I sometimes feel like we're inside of that and like in this, our own little bubble, and we don't realize that we're housed inside of this bubble and that we're not. And there is a way out and a way to revive the relationship. So plan a nice little weekend getaway, something where you don't have to plan like crazy, something where it's simple and easy. Do a staycation for the weekend and maybe have a list of things you want to discuss with each other. If there's something that's upsetting you, you're both kind of relaxed and in a different place, and you can both really look into what the situation is with more of a clear, open mind, especially if you have a few drinks. But anyway, I think that going away or date nights is very, very important. And agreeing on, what you might not talk about or not do that you're so used to doing when you're away from the house and the children is something that's, I think, really, really important. All right. So I also believe that having communication is key. Once the communication is gone in the relationship, I really think it's downhill after that. I was talking earlier that you are no longer individualized. Let me explain what I mean. Well, aside from the obvious, when you're married, it is now a team. The decisions that you make are together, the things you do are together, but certainly you still do have your own individuality where you can go out with your own friends, go out for a cigar, go out for wine with the girls, have a girls' night out. So you don't want to lose that individuality, but you still have to remember that with very important things, not so important things, you still are a team. And there are those things that you have to remember that involve the other person. But of course, it's really important to a marriage for you to get out on your own and do your own thing, whether it's, like I said before, a girls' night out, even playing tennis, flag football, basketball with your friends, just having a night out or a couple of lunch dates, even if you go out on your own, you still need to have that to maintain a decent relationship, or else you will be miserable. It's very important that marriage has like a tune-up throughout each year. And I don't mean once a year. I mean throughout the year. It's like when you bring your car in to get tuned and all of the fluids need to be checked and the oil and all of that. The tires have to be checked. It's the same thing. Your marriage still needs regular maintenance. I tell my husband I love you all the time, but the thing of it is, how do you still express that besides just saying those 3 words? Well, I express it by always being there for him, always being ready to help him with anything he needs, being kind. Sometimes I get really pissed and I can be an asshole, but that's few and far between. I'm much nicer than I'm an asshole. But like I said before, communication and romance or intimacy. It's not just about saying things. It's about doing and acting as well. To me, that's really important. I think that also you need to remember that, how do I say this? When it comes to sex or being romantic, you got to switch things up. You can't have the same old, and do the same thing over and over again. You need to research. Men, you need to research. Women don't really need to research. And I'm not saying that because I'm a woman. It's because when it comes to a man, there's only so many things a woman can do. What do I mean by that? You guys can have one orgasm from one spot, from one place. Women can have 3 different orgasms from 3 different places. Do your research, men. Find out how that can be done and how to do it, because a woman might not be in the mood for intercourse. Follow me? But they might be in the mood for some other form of stimulation where they can also have an orgasm. So that's why you want to kind of keep yourself abreast, pun intended, for those times when you want to be intimate. If you're just going to do wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, the romance is gone. I mean, you need to switch it up. You need to make each other happy. And for women, yeah, you also need to work on it. Like I said, there's only so much you can do for a man, and men are easy, but men really like change too. If you haven't kissed your husband on the neck or the chest or the legs, start doing that. Add a little something extra. Switch up some other thing you might be doing to when you're doing foreplay. You might want to try a different technique here and there, not just do the same old thing. Anyway, going to move on from that. You all get the gist of what I'm saying. I really believe also in I think that when people get married, women and men have a tendency of sometimes feeling like, okay, I'm married now, I can let myself go. And you gain some weight, or you don't make yourself look good, you don't shower as much. You just don't work on the outer part of yourself as much as you used to. Men and women need to continue to be attractive to their spouses. You can't always look like a schlump. I'm saying this directly to everyone. Trust me when I tell you, my job involves me looking like a schlump most of the time. But I still make sure that, I still make myself attractive to my husband, and I don't just, look like crap all the time. And I try, to eat well and maintain how I look physically. And sometimes there are things as you get older you just can't help. But if you're not going to try to at least still allow yourself some room to look attractive to your husband, then that's another thing that would need to be worked on. And some of you might be like, I can't believe that Julie's saying that. I have to be attractive. Yeah, you do. It's very simple. It doesn't matter how you feel about that. How would you feel if your husband, gained like 300 pounds, never shaved, had a beard down to his ankles, never showered, stunk all the time? I don't think that you would be happy about that. There are certain things in life that attract men to women and vice versa. I'm not saying that you have to be skinny or thin. I'm saying just allow yourself to be presentable to your husband, and same with your husband to you. You all understand what I'm saying. So if you're going to get offended, then maybe that's something you need to work on. But I really believe that it is not just what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. And let me explain. When I was younger, it was all about what was on the outside. And there were some men that were just very, very unattractive on the inside. But when I saw them externally, it was like, oh my God, oh my God. But they turned out to be idiots in one way or another. So, if there are things you just can't help, look, as we get older, we do get uglier. It's just a fact. I mean, there are some people who age gracefully and look fantastic, and there are those that don't. There's certain parameters that you just cannot meet. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that when Mother Nature starts to evolve on your face and your body, there's only so much you can do. And your significant other must need to accept all those changes that are happening, because they're happening with your significant other as well. But those things that cannot be helped are one thing, but things that can be helped, like making sure that you do smell good and you shower, simple hygiene is what I'm talking about. Again, when you get married, you don't always think about what it's going to be like in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, even, God bless, 60, 70, 80, well, not 80 years, but you know what I mean. Well, maybe 80 years, you never know. You don't think that far into the future. And sometimes when people start to change, some people are like, ugh, I didn't sign up for this. But you have to weigh the good and the bad. For me, my husband is an incredible human being. He really, truly is. If you were to meet him, you would say the same thing. I mean, there's not one person that dislikes my husband. You just can't. It's really annoying. But he's really a wonderful, wonderful man. And it's really hard to say, ooh, look what he looks like, when he's so fantastic on the inside. And it's the same thing for other men and other women who might change on the outside. I mean, did you marry that person for what they look like on the outside? Because if you did, I really hate to tell you, but bodies change. Faces change. Someone who might have been incredibly gorgeous might not be anymore. Someone that might have had a ton of hair on their head could get bald. Those are the things that you not need to fall in love with a man or a woman for. You need to fall in love with that person for the person, and know that as life goes on, there's going to be changes externally. I really believe that when you have a marriage that is on the outs, that it is salvageable. It's almost like I was saying before, a car, like a broken down car. It can be fixed, just like a marriage. And even though it might seem like all hope is gone, you can rediscover each other. And I think it's really important that you rediscover what it was that made you attracted to that person. The very in the beginning stages, what made you want to be with this person for the rest of your life? Certainly it was, something that you knew would be good. For me, I knew, like, my husband was, excuse me, a good looking man, but it was more about what an incredibly kind and generous heart he had. And he grew up in a family that was not the best. And I'll just leave it at that. And it was always amazing to me how he turned out to be this incredible man. Many men or women would have broken down and might have become the same way that his parents were. He became the opposite, and he really fought through adversity. And to me, that was such a huge strength, to see how he became this incredible man aside from the shit that he grew up with. Really was truly amazing to me. And that was the main thing for me. I felt like if he's able to turn out to be this kind of guy, well, I can only imagine what kind of a husband he'd be or a father he'd be. Let me also discuss when it comes to marriage, or even like long-lasting relationships. You might not be married, but I think that you have to find a way to remember the commonalities that both of you had with each other. And the thing of it is that you might not have had a lot in common, but there was still that something that brought you two together. Sometimes with my husband and I mean, my God, we're never always on the same page. I'm not never, but we're not always on the same page, but we do respect each other's opinions. And that is extremely important when you have someone that is on the same page with you. But there are definitely times when we're not on the same page. They say opposites attract. I'm very type A, he's very type B. I married him because he was type B. I married him because I felt that he was his yin to my yang. It was really important to have somebody that could be there for me in times when I was just going, crazy with something. That was, really important. I think it's also really important to have fun. You need to, check that monitor, the fun monitor, and say, are we having fun? Or is life just about what we've been doing, raising our child, paying our mortgage, furnishing our home, making everything look beautiful? Or is it more about having fun with each other, taking a boat ride, a bike ride, like I said before, going out on a date, being adventurous, trying something new, something that, you might have thought of doing when you were a kid that you just haven't done in adulthood. That to me is what it's about. I think that when couples take on something new with each other, whether it's a hobby or even a vacation, it's because those activities that you've been doing, the old ones, have just become monotonous. And, it's like having this dark cloud over your marriage. So to me, having fun, thinking of things you can do that are different and fun. And if you can't think of anything, go online. and find things that you can do that are fun. My husband and I recently rented kayaks in at a lake. And I was like, I am not doing this. I don't want to get wet. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, just get in the effing canoe. And I'm like, fine. I wound up having a blast. Something so simple. Going in a canoe and canoeing a kayak. And was it a kayak or a canoe? I can't remember now. Well, let's just call it a canoe or a kayak. Whatever it was so much fun. It was simple, and it was something that we never do. And I had a great time. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be anything big. And then there's times when we'll spend, a decent amount of money to go do something that we think is adventurous and fun. It really depends on what it is. So these are a few things that I think are really perfect for maintaining a marriage. And I know I mentioned before about being romantic. Romance is not just about sex. Romance is about, a candlelit dinner. Even, believe it or not, if you have young kids and your marriage is starting to flail, let's say the man calls the babysitter and he says to you, you and I are going out for dinner. We have reservations at ABC Place tonight at 7:30. Be ready. Well, that would be all I would need. The fact that my husband took the initiative to contact the babysitter, took the time to make reservations to take me out. I mean, right there, that's romantic. On top of the act itself of being out and about and having a romantic dinner with each other away from the children. To me, that's romantic. I think it's fun, to even talk about the change that you might be going through or changes you might be going through. Sometimes just sitting and talking and you listening to him and him listening to you is sometimes all you need for a little fix, a little tweak of the marriage. I think it's important that we remember to take the time for each other because we can really get wrapped up in the whole rigmarole of life. And we sometimes have a tendency of forgetting that it's really the two of you before anyone or anything. I think that it's really important that you come back to what you and your significant other once were and try not to lose that unless it's just an agreement that the two of you are no longer compatible and you've done or exhausted all of the things that you feel you have tried, whether it's counseling or reading books or communicating, and it's you've tried. I just hope that you don't give up and you are able to fight for it. And once you've exhausted all of that and you know that unfortunately you do have to give up, possibly might be the best thing for you at that time, which I know it is for many couples. It's just kind of what happens. So I think the most important part of marriage is to try. Keep trying until you have exhausted everything, because you really want to try. And once the ending is near and that's it, like I'm done, I can't do anymore, well, then you both have to make that decision. But hopefully it won't come to that. But if it does, for some people, it might be worth it. For some people, they might not be able to continue on. And that's just how it is. Anyway, this has been my podcast for today on marriage maintenance. Like I said, I feel like I'm a local expert on this. not like, tooting my own horn, but toot. I just think that when you've been through the gamut of things that you feel a married couple has to go through, you feel as though you do have some form of expertise. Now, I know that there's a lot more to come. I know there's going to eventually at some point maybe be some health issues for either one of us. I know there's going to be still a lot more challenges, and there's still going to continue to be ups and downs, but you just have to be prepared for that to happen, and that's why it's so important to enjoy the times when everything is going good, because you just never know when it can go bad. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. If you would like to reach out to me or see my social media, Facebook and Instagram, Nothing But Julie. I also have a blog on WordPress, which is www.nothingbutjulie.wordpress.com or nothingbutjulie.wordpress.com. And feel free to subscribe to my podcast on any of the podcast streaming apps. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.